Hello again, Painting 2 students. I know we already had a demonstration discussion about this in our team meeting, but just wanted to go over a couple things in case you needed to come back and review the assignment directions. The first thing that we did, as you saw in the first video, was transfer these impossible shapes with graphite transfer onto the piece of illustration board. The second thing we did was to make some choices about color. Okay, so you were to pick a complementary combination of colors, one for the foreground shape and one for the background behind it, and to do two pairs of those, okay? And so if you look on the color wheel, orange and blue are opposites, green and red are opposites, and these actually form a rectangular relationship on the color wheel, and that's called a tetrad. So really what you're doing is it's a tetrad color scheme painting, which has a rectangular relationship on the color wheel, okay? So you can make any combination of two complements that you wish. And you know, I had mentioned that even though I did a secondary, a primary, and a secondary, a primary, it may be more interesting if you chose a color combination like yellow, orange, and blue, violet, which would be a tertiary color complementary pair, or you could do blue, green, and red, orange. And so in that case, that's still a tetrad, but it is creating a rectangle that's a little bit askew from the secondary and primary ones that I used in mine. Okay, so that's the next step, is to make that decision. Now the reason that's important is it's not just because one color's in the background, one's in the foreground. You're actually using a little bit of that other color to create your shadows. So we're not using a whole lot of black in this painting. You can cheat a little bit and use some, especially if you have a darker color for your foreground shape color. But mainly what we're doing is you're using the mother color, the source color, the color that we're starting with. So in this case it's orange. So I had to mix up a batch of that, red and yellow together, to create that secondary color. And then as it's getting lighter, I'm adding more and more white. But as it's getting darker, I'm adding more and more of the complement, not necessarily black, but the complement. So in order to get this darker version of orange, I didn't mix a lot of black or any with this actually, I mixed blue, okay? Now if you want to, like, I'm not really done with this, I could go back and I need to fix up the edges a little bit, but I also may want to, in the really darkest of dark areas, throw some black in there just to create the contrast, because it starts to muddy up a little bit. And I want to make sure that it's a little cleaner looking than that. But those value changes or differences are what gives this its form or three-dimensional quality. There are no outlines, so it's really a matter of making sure that each value is either light or dark enough to make this look three-dimensional. Okay, so same applies here. As the green was getting darker, a little bit of red was added to that to get that color. As the green was getting lighter, white was added to that, okay? And so that's how you move forward on this project. And the first layer of paint, I highly recommend you just doing freehand and trying to stay within the edges. And if you go over, you'll just paint it and clean it up on the second loop around. But on the last layer, you may want to tape off some of the edges to get some crisp differences between light and dark. Now, although my background is a little boring, it just fades gently from like a light blue to dark blue to like a indigo to this crimson color in the background, I had mentioned to you in our team meeting that I'd rather you come up with something a little more creative for the background. Like I had told you last year when I did this project, I did it with painting one, and so I didn't want to require too much in terms of design for them in the background, but since you guys are upper level students, I think you're capable of something more interesting than this for the background. So I'm really excited to see what you come up with, and please feel free to reach out as you're working on this with any feedback questions, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all at the end of the week to see where we're at with this. Okay, take care.